I'm Keith McIntyre, and I'm leader of the BC Libertarian Party. We've been fighting for freedom since 1986. We are the only provincial party that has been against the mandates and restrictions from the very beginning. Prior to H1N1, I worked with the U.S. Centre for Disease Control developing modeling and simulation software. The work we did with them helped guide their response for the H1N1 pandemic. What has happened over the last 2 years has been wrong, and it has harmed many people and has caused a great deal of divisiveness. Today we're going to share some stories of people who have been affected by the vaccine mandates, both professionally and personally.
My name's Morag McNerney, and I've been a CT technologist and X-ray tech for 15 years, mostly working at Shuswap Lake Hospital in Salmon Arm. I left work on September 20th in tears and never returned. It was shortly after I discovered that 2 vaccinations were going to be required as a standard for employment for Interior Health Authority that I realized that nobody has my back. I was told, get the vaccine or you don't have a job. I chose not to get vaccinated because of what I was seeing in my workplace after the vaccine rollout. What I saw was a pattern starting, and that was 40 and 50-year-old, mostly women, coming in with stroke symptoms. And the cases that we would typically be scanning for looking for strokes or pulmonary embolisms were now happening in a younger age group, and it was a very clear pattern that I saw. There were also people coming in with paralysis. I saw this firsthand. And the woman who I'll never forget told me she received her vaccine the night before and woke up like this, full body paralysis, and she was terrified. And all I could do was give her a warm blanket and try and tell her that everything was going to be okay, knowing that it likely wouldn't. And that was the day that I decided I was not willing to take the risk of what this vaccine had the potential of. You can read up about all the vaccine injuries. It's one thing seeing some vaccine injuries coming and going out of one small emergency room. But if you put them all together and then you read the published papers or go online and read, the information is there if you look for it.
My name is Corey Vert, and I'm a new mom. I decided to not receive the vaccine because I was pregnant, and I was not sure about the long-term side effects of the vaccine for myself and for my baby because of the lack of information, if that makes any sort of sense. The fact that there was no long-term studies available about what would happen to me or what would happen to my daughter if I received the vaccine while I was pregnant, I came up with quite a bit of pressure from the healthcare system to take the vaccine. But my take from the whole situation was that people were still getting COVID with or without the vaccine, so why would I take an experimental drug essentially with no long-term information available to me when the risks were the same either way? I had to deliver via C-section due to previous medical complications with my first birth. And there was about a month where we were really not certain whether my husband was going to be allowed to come into the hospital. We had actually looked into some doula services just so that I could hire myself a vaccinated support person to come in and be there with me and be a voice because I didn't have any close people in my life that were vaccinated that could come in to the delivery room if that became a requirement. I felt a lot of stress. I spent a lot of time crying. It was a really hard month, and it was probably I tried my best not to worry, because I know that wasn't good for my baby and my pregnancy, but it was really a difficult time not knowing if my husband was going to be there for the birth of our child. I don't believe that politicians and governments should be making decisions on people's personal health. I feel that it's a violation of human rights to be forcing a vaccination on anyone.
My name is Heather Trenton. I'm currently a stay-at-home mom due to the COVID vaccine mandate. I am not vaccinated for any COVID-19 shots or booster shots. I decided, I don't think I've ever identified with the title anti-vax, ever. I had all my childhood immunizations. My own children have immunizations, but I've never taken a flu vaccine in my life before, because I felt it's my job as a healthy young individual to actually get the flu and have a natural immunity to it to protect those I love around me. So working in a homeless shelter, my position was a frontline worker. That role includes aiding in overdoses if some of the residents who are drug users have that happen to themselves, giving them hygiene materials, giving them clean blankets. Oftentimes in a homeless shelter, you're breaking up fights a lot of the time, because when you have 40+ roommates, that happens. So a lot of the residents who come into the homeless shelter don't have anything medically up to date, let alone vaccines. And it seemed like a really strange thing when they started asking workers to get vaccinated when your residents and clients aren't even vaccinated. So when finally the axe came down and the director of board for work said that everyone needed to be vaccinated, submit your vaccine status as workers, I just refused to submit mine. I was like, oh, no, you don't need to know that. And finally it was like more and more pressure, like, well, tell us. And I was like, well, I have medical concerns with this. Like, it's brand new mRNA gene therapy technology. It's not had 20 years of study and science behind it like previous vaccines. And I just don't see a need to put the pressure on this when our residents aren't even vaccinated. Like, finally, I just was like, this is enough. They were gonna put me on an unpaid leave of absence, which I was like, could have taken, but I decided to actually resign at that point because I just was tired of playing the game.
My name is Courtney Valaket. I managed several wineries in the Okanagan, and I was terminated because I chose not to get vaccinated. I've worked for the same company for the better part of a decade. I started an entry-level position right out of high school and was promoted several times, stayed in operations for several years, and then was promoted by the president to wine club manager. And with COVID, all front-facing employees had to be vaccinated. That was their mandate within the organization. And my role was behind the scenes. It wasn't customer facing. It was operational, administrative. It was argued that I was customer facing or could be customer facing. And I was terminated because I chose not to get vaccinated and I was told to.
I'm Dr. Robert Johnson. I'm a dentist in Salmon Arm. I graduated in 2009, moved there and bought a practice. The fall this year, fall 2021, I had some person who I've never met or spoken to filed a complaint with my regulatory body, the College of Dental Surgeons of BC, and just sent them an email and said, I don't know where the college stands on these matters, but I've got some concerns about Dr. Robert Johnson from Salmon Arm because he's an avowed anti-masker, anti-vaxxer. He goes to the COVID misinformation rallies, and he doesn't follow the provincial health orders. I just had an issue with the fact that they actually sent this to me and expected me to respond to it like it was legitimate, right? So I shot this video, and they put it out there, and it just went crazy. I think I need to start right off the bat by addressing these ideas of, anyone who is opposed to Bonnie Henry's ridiculous mandates is a conspiracy theorist, anti-vaxxer, anti-masker. because those are labels that have been invented to just be able to discredit and dismiss anybody that is trying to say, hey, this doesn't make any sense. The reason that I personally decided not to get vaccinated was because I actually did my undergrad degree before I got into dental school was honors biochemistry. So I took a lot of courses on immunology and physiology and virology, and you know, when I first heard them talking about this concept where you're going to take mRNA and put it into my body so that my cells can produce this protein for my immune system to recognize an attack, that made no sense. I was like, why would I do that? Like, which of my cells are doing that? That's a terrible idea. Like, how is that not going to cause autoimmune diseases and all kinds of ridiculous problems? Even if you actually believe in the vaccine, you got vaccinated yourself, you thought that was a good idea, if you have any sense, you would still be opposed to the mandates, right? Like, the mandates are still problematic. That's my whole argument this whole time, is the question of how bad is COVID really and how safe and effective are the vaccines really is not actually relevant to the discussion of are we mandating these things. That has to be a hard no. There's no excuse for that. I'm not a fan of the government interfering in my life. I don't believe in licensing and regulation. I think that's all, I'm not a statist. And I think this is a perfect example of why that's a terrible idea, because these policies are absolutely ludicrous, and like, these people are not even functioning, like, they're acting like tyrants and dictators, right? They don't even seem to recognize that they're supposed to work for us. Like, it's like, why is there no functioning mechanism of system of checks and balances where we can push back on this and say we're not doing that because it's stupid? You know, some people say that's the negative of what's going on now, is that the public trust in the government and the media is getting damaged by this, but I think that's actually the positive, because I think that you never should have trusted these idiots in the first place. So.
It has been absolutely heartbreaking hearing the stories of so many people affected by these mandates. I've personally written 70 to 80 political beliefs exemptions letters for people that are being threatened to lose their jobs. Unfortunately, most to no effect. Myself personally, my son is in Waterloo for university. He turned 19 a few weeks ago. I can't get on a plane. I can't go give him a hug. I can't buy him a beer in a pub for the first time. This is supposed to be Canada, and I can't travel within my own country. Libertarian beliefs very much are on a foundation of not having force. We're founded on the non-aggression principle. I can't slap you on the back, never mind threaten to pierce your skin with a vaccine and threaten you with your job. I hear so many times that there are consequences to your actions. Absolutely, there are consequences to your actions. The consequence of losing a 34-year job without a pension for not injecting something into your body is not an appropriate consequence. Threatening a mother that she can't have her husband in the delivery room, that is not an appropriate consequence. What has happened over the last 2 years has divided us. It has made everything worse, and government should not be involved in these healthcare decisions. We should have independent panels from all aspects of industry. The data should be open. I used to have conversations with the BC CDC, and they said what I was saying was right. I asked, well, why is Bonnie Henry doing what she's doing? And their answer, Bonnie Henry does what Bonnie Henry wants to do. So we have political coercion happening in our society today, and this is not right. We need to get politics out of health decisions. We need to stop with mandates. We don't need mandates if the information is presented in a meaningful way. We're generally good people, and we will do the right thing. As soon as you start forcing people to do it, that's when the anger starts, that's when people start fighting back. And the BC government is the worst in the entire country for how it has handled this pandemic and the harm that has happened to people. 5,700 more people died in 2021 than 2019 in BC. That's 15%. That's 15 people every single day dying more than in 2019. That's not the virus. That's alcoholism. That's addiction. That's heart disease. that's lack of preventative care, that's people afraid to go talk to their doctor, that's people afraid to go to the hospital, that's cancers not being detected. The singular approach on this one virus has harmed more people than it ever could have saved. We need to take control back to the people, and we need to get politicians out of making our decisions for us and treating us like toddlers. We're adults. Give us the information and we will make the right decisions.